And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What is going on, RBLR Nation? You are tuning in to the Rays portion here at RBLR Sports. I am Zach, one of the hosts here, but the main event, the best host in the world, Mr. Ben Whitelaw. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, good morning. I think we're both like the main course in this show. No side dishes.
We'll call it just the co-main event.
Perfect.
So, we got some freaking Rays news today, man. Not today, but this week, I should say.
Yeah, it's crazy that they were one of the first teams to do something. Kind of surprising, but cool, I guess.
So, obviously, we're not used to being the first team to kind of make to kick the door down, if that makes sense, on free agency. But what is your take on not only just the signing, but us being that first team?
First of all, it's really cool to be the first domino that kind of falls in this whole thing, because that normally doesn't happen, and it probably won't happen again for a long time. But the Rays got a player in Zach Eflin where they like the value and the length of the deal, and they decided to just pull the trigger. So, they got their guy. I really wanted them to get someone who could eat like 100 or 120 innings, pitch at hopefully a sub-4 FIP. And he looks like a guy that could do that. Like, his career numbers aren't great. He's basically like a right-handed Ryan Yarbrough for his career in terms of like overall production, but he hasn't been in the Rays pitching lab yet. So I do like the upside that he kind of brings with him.
Yeah, I was reading some stuff on him, and it was kind of saying that when he was with the Phillies, he threw like 6 or 7 different pitches, I believe.
Yeah, you got to clean that up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just throw your best 3, and you'll probably have an ERA below 4. That was my biggest concern when I saw that we signed him. I obviously knew who he was, but I didn't pay much attention to him because he was on the Phillies. But I mean, looking at his stuff that he has, I'm excited for him. I don't think he's going to be a number 3 guy or number 2 guy for us, but a 3 or 4 guy I think is very possible.
Yeah, I mean, his command is definitely what carries him. So, we'll see what the adjustments they make with the arsenal overall. But coming into this team, he's like the 5th best starting pitching option on the team, because like obviously McClanahan and Glasnow are at the top. Rasmussen, which we'll get to later in our player review, is phenomenal. He had a great year. Springs really burst onto the scene last year as well. So that leaves Eflin as like the 5th starter, and a 5th starter making $11 million it seems a little expensive, especially for a team like the Rays. But in terms of like the market value, in the previous offseason, like heading into the 2022 season, one WAR or one Fangraphs WAR was worth roughly like $5.5 to $6 million. So if Eflin can put up like a 2 F WAR this year, like, which is basically like a little bit worse than what Springs did last year, then he'll be, it'll be a good deal. So I think he can do that. We'll see what kind of adjustments he makes, but the majority of this deal is really based on his potential upside. And I think a lot of fans are really excited about Eflin, which like, that's cool. Like, we should be, because, the Rays fill the need. Now they can go out and get a bat, maybe 2, but he's not that good. Like, he hasn't been that good. So I'm kind of pumping the brakes on like, okay, this is like the World Series signing, because it's not. Like, he's been a slightly below major league average pitcher for his career.
Exactly. And that was kind of my concern. But at the same time, seeing the potential that he has, and I believe he's the youngest pitcher on the free agent market. I saw something about that. The youngest like starting pitcher on the free agent market. And he's, I think, a top 10 free agent wide receiver. God, I'm talking football now. Starting pitcher. I think that we have the ability to turn him around, and I think that is why I'm so excited for it. I've been quiet about it on Twitter, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you got a guy who's heading into his prime, really excellent command, like well above average command. Stuff isn't great, which is kind of interesting because usually the Rays target like high stuff grade pitchers and then, help them fix their command. But it seems like they're targeting him, Zach Eflin, as a high command starter, and they're hopefully going to try to either optimize his arsenal or maybe improve some pitches. I don't really know what they could possibly change about his arsenal, because like guys that are in the majors, they're pretty much like mostly finished products. Like obviously, you can always still grow and improve, but I think it's really just going to be about like finding out a good pitch mix that works for him, and getting him to eat innings while Glasnow is still going to be restricted, and kind of just like as an insurance policy, I guess. So it's a good signing. It's not great. It's not like groundbreaking, but it's good.
Okay, so what do you think the floor for him is, and then the ceiling for him is in his the 3-year contract with the Rays?
The floor is probably Ryan Yarbrough. Like he'll be a right-handed Ryan Yarbrough. Eflin has been terrible against left-handed bats in his career, so the Rays are going to have to fix that. But they did pretty good with Brooks Raley in that regard, so I think they could probably figure something out with Eflin. Maybe it's just mixing in a changeup a bit more, or a sinker, or something off speed, or breaking, whatever. But the ceiling is probably like the 3rd or 4th best starter on the team. Like he's really, I don't see him being an all-star unless like something crazy happens. And I don't think the Rays necessarily think he can be an all-star, nor do they need him to be. Like he just has to eat innings and be like slightly above league average, and it's a good signing. So yeah, what about you? What's your ceiling and floor for him?
Yeah, my ceiling is an average MLB pitcher at this point. I think that he has the ability to be more than that, but I'm kind of trying to be realistic. Like fringe all-star guy, maybe. Then my ceiling, I think Ryan Yarbrough is a good floor is a good. Ryan Yarbrough is a good floor for him.
Yeah, I mean it's safe, but it's also like not super high upside. But like the Rays are also relying on upside to make the deal like really valuable. So we'll see. I mean they're probably the best team in baseball in the entire world at like optimizing their pitchers and getting the best out of them. So he's probably like guaranteed to do better with the Rays than he did in Philadelphia. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would almost guarantee that we have so much of a better pitching warehouse, I guess you could call it, or whatever your words are. The pitching lab. There we go.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can get him to cheat too. That might help.
I mean, that always helps a little bit. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? So before we get into the listener questions, I have to touch on the Jacob deGrom signing, considering he was rumored to have interest in Tampa. So what is your opinion on that? Would you have given him that long of a contract, that much money, all of it, I guess?
Well, I think the Rangers window is probably pretty small right now. I would like to say that it's closing just because I'm kind of a hater, but at the same time, like I think it is closing because Oakland is going to be, they've already gotten their rebuild started. The Angels look like they might know what they're doing finally. It's hard to say. The Mariners are pretty solid and they've got a pretty good young core, so they're going to be, maybe a strong playoff contender for the foreseeable future. The Astros are going to keep churning out talent. So I think the Rangers with, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, like they kind of have to attack now. And I think now is their window. So if you want to throw a 5-year, almost $200 million deal at a 35-year-old pitcher who has been injury prone for a lot of his career, he's really good, like phenomenal, like perennial Cy Young contender. I would think he's probably going to be on some Hall of Fame ballots in the not too distant future. So I understand the signing, but I wouldn't make that for my team personally.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I know we had talked about it a little bit before the show, and it was like in my head, I would have loved to have DeGrom. I mean, it would have been like a homecoming story, just kind of like Eflin, but I would not have paid him for 5 years. I don't that even if the contract was a good contract, I don't think he's going to play for 5 more years.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I mean, like the context, if they wanted him, they would have to throw this kind of deal at him, and they did it. So they got him. They're definitely going to be, strong playoff contenders for next year, maybe 2, maybe 3 years after that. So if they win a World Series at some point in that time frame, that's great. If they don't, then it's a pretty big miss because I mean, they do have an okay farm system, but really like the money that they've committed in the short term here over the next couple of years is really significant. So
Yeah.
this is their window essentially, and they're going for it. And you can't really fault a team for that.
No, I mean, good on him. I'm glad that we didn't offer him that, but I obviously wish the best to DeGrom. I think he's a great player. I like him as a player, and I want him to stay healthy, but I would not have, if I were in charge of a team, given him that contract.
Yeah, I mean, John Daniels isn't there anymore to talk them off that ledge. He's with the Rays, so who knows? Maybe if he stays, they don't give him that contract. But yeah, either way, it's good for the Rangers, but it wouldn't really be a good contract for the Rays to take on. So
Yeah.
I'm just interested to see what like the Rays offer was to DeGrom, because I'm sure that'll get leaked out someday, maybe this year, maybe a couple years from now, like with the Bryce Harper stuff. So it should be interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I say we hear it in 2 years. They'll be like, yeah, we offered him $40 million for one season.
I mean, that's more than what I think he's making now on the Rangers deal at an average annual value. But you want those guaranteed years of money. So I would take DeGrom's deal. Like if I was a baseball player, I
don't care how good I was. I would take that deal. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess you have some user questions for us or listener questions for us.
Yeah, we got too many here, but that's okay. I mean, we just got a soccer game later, so we're gonna speed run this, but in a very polite way. But yeah, anyways, we got a couple from Jake Larson here on Twitter at Jake Larson. That's his Twitter name. Question number 1 here is: will the Rays' next major transaction come before, during, or after the winter meetings? So, what do you think?
Oh Lord. If I had to throw something out there, I'd say probably during. I know that the Rays are usually relatively active at the winter meetings, so I would say probably during the winter meetings is our next transaction.
Yeah, just based on like the proportion of signings or transactions that get done at the winter meetings. Like Bendix talked about it on the latest Neil Solon's podcast interview. He was saying like so many teams, players, representatives, like organizations, like that try to sell things to the teams, like market, like player tracking stuff, whatever. Like everybody's in one place, so it's like easier to get those things done, and negotiate and talk about stuff. So if anything, it'll probably come during the winter meetings, but I honestly have no idea, just because I'm really surprised the Rays did something before the winter meetings. So
yeah, exactly. They're already off track of what we're used to, so there's really no saying.
Right, exactly. So the next question from Jake Larson, number 2 here is: will the next major transaction be a trade or a signing?
I'm going to go with a trade. I've been very vocal about wanting Tampa to sign Josh Bell, but I have a feeling that a trade's going to probably be the next big move.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they'd do a trade. I mean, I think the options are better in the trade market, and I think they'll probably be a little bit cheaper than free agency, just based on what we've seen with some of the signings already. I know a lot of them have been pitchers, but yeah, it seems like there's a lot of money being thrown around in free agency, and if the Rays get in a bidding war, they're most likely not going to win that bidding war most of the time. So I think the trade market is probably better, and they have a lot of like assets and players that they can move around to get, the players that they want from other teams. So a trade just seems more likely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Number 3 here. We got 4 from Jake. So number 3, will the next free agent signing have a higher average annual value than Eflin's? And by the way, Eflin signed like, technically the largest free agent deal in Rays history based on like total dollar value. So
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither. It seems like it was, maybe like a one-off thing. Maybe in a couple years when inflation is a lot more than it is right now, it'll be like, they'll sign someone to like a 1-year $40 million deal, but that's like normal by then. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't see them breaking the record twice in one off season.
Yeah, I don't really think they'll make like another big free agent signing anyways this offseason. So I mean, Eflin's is probably going to be it for a little while.
As much as I wish they would, I agree with you.
And then number 4 here to wrap up Jake Larson's questions. Is Glasnow on the move because of the Eflin deal? And he said, is that fear justified? I think that's what he meant by that.
Yeah, I don't think the fear is justified. We got to keep in mind he's making $5 million this year. He's not like his actual contract has not kicked in yet. Next year, I think it jumps up to 23 or 24, if I'm not mistaken. If he goes anywhere, it'll be next off season, and even then, I don't know that he goes anywhere. If I'm being completely honest, if he pitches like he normally does, and he's that perennial Cy Young candidate, then I don't think that he goes anywhere even next year.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the Eflin deal is Glasnow insurance, just because he's going to be on somewhat of an innings limit.
Yeah.
And you never really know what you're going to get when a guy is coming off Tommy John surgery. But Glasnow's looked great. There's really no signs of concern. Everything's good. I don't think the fear is justified. Yeah, Glasnow's probably sticking around. And mostly, like, they don't trade players when they're at, like, a lower point in their value. And right now, like, it's not like Glasnow isn't worth a lot right now because he's worth a ton because he's on a $5 million deal. Like, that's really awesome for a lot of teams. But it would make more sense to trade him next year after he has a great season in 2023. So I think he's staying.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that if any starting pitchers get traded, we gotta look at a guy like Jeffrey Springs, who even him I don't think is getting traded, but I do think he's got very good value right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, everybody could get traded, and also none of them could get traded. That's just how the Rays work. Like, there's nobody's untouchable except for Wander, and Wander's only untouchable because nobody can afford him. So
100%.
All right, next one is from at baseball6677. Great name there. I wonder how hard it was for you to get that one. He said, how do you feel about the current distribution of talent on the roster with more so more of the talent on the roster is on the pitching side? How do we feel about that? And do we need to spread that talent out more, or should we just find the best value wherever possible? That's a really good question.
That is a good question. My only thing is, hasn't the Rays talent kind of always been on the pitching staff?
Yeah, it has for sure.
Like, we're kind of used to it at this point. It does. I wish it would be leveled out a little bit more. I wish that we had more skill players, but I mean, we make it work every single season. So I'm not stressing it. And I think it is just a value thing. Like, where can we get the most value? And it just happens to be that Tampa's so good at either correcting or furthering pitchers in their career that it kind of works out that we get the best value there, and it just happens to be our strong suit.
Yeah, definitely. I think the pitching side is always going to kind of take priority, especially with the home field situation. Like, the Trop is on like the pitcher's side of things, like in terms of like pitcher or hitter friendly stadiums. So I think it's really good when teams build to their strengths, and like, you play 81 games there, so you might as well try to make the most of that. Sort of like how the Yankees will, not always target these type of players, but they'll go for like those fly ball, pull heavy hitters, especially from the left-hand side, because you can get a couple cheap home runs that way, and it'll help you win games. So I like that the Rays, they don't only build for, playing games at the Trop, but I think their internal evaluations of which players are the most valuable, they tend to they tend to be pitchers, because pitchers perform better at the Trop than hitters. So yeah,
no, and I agree. I think that it just happens to be value where it's at. If there was value in a big bat, we would have signed a big bat, I think. So to me, it's just a value thing.
Yeah, and we'll probably get a bat sooner or later. Like they need at least one, so it's going to happen. But I think the pitching is always going to be kind of the priority because you can't win a game. I mean, you can't lose a game that you don't give up any runs. But you can always kind of like luck your way into some runs, like if the other team's defense is bad. So I think pitching should just always stick to being the priority, even if they're not playing at the Trop, which we will talk about a little bit later with the there's some St. Pete Stadium rumbling stuff.
Yeah, there is.
We'll talk a little bit about. All right, next one, Darth Steven, friend of the show.
Yep.
5 instead of the S. He said, I'm assuming asking which one we want more and not like which one we'd rather take on a date, but he's asking Sean Murphy or Gabriel Moreno. And then he said, if the Rays were to deal with the A's, would you want them to obtain more players from them like Blackburn and or Brown, knowing what the cost might be? So I guess Murphy or Moreno, and then what else would you want from either team?
So in the Rays, we got a little Rays group chat of all the Rays fans around, and I was kind of joking, but also not joking. I would rather have Murphy. Moreno is not proven to me yet, and Murphy is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want the proven bat, especially after the offense we had last season and like what the Rays' priorities are right now. Like, you want a good proven hitter. I'd prefer more of a power hitter than either of those, to be honest. Like, I mean, I would like Murphy, but I don't think he's exactly what we need. Like, the catching situation is fine. Like, obviously you could upgrade it because Sean Murphy might be like one of the best catchers in baseball. But Moreno's pretty good too, and he's kind of built for like the future of catching with the automated balls and strikes that are going to come into play eventually. Phenomenal pop time, pretty strong like contact oriented hitter. He does have a little bit of power, but he's a good like line drives, doubles kind of guy. He's really young, calls games really well. So yeah, I mean, he's solid. If anything, like I kind of would prefer Danny Jansen because he's a bit of a power threat. But I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd still say Sean Murphy though.
Yeah, so I think we're on the same page. Now, would you want more from Oakland in that trade?
Oh yeah, I want Seth Brown.
There it is. I know you're a fan of him.
I mean, it's not specifically him. It's just what he does. Like, if his name was something else and he played for another team, but he had the same like kind of numbers, I would still want him because he's a good left-handed power threat, and he's provides a lot of consistent power. I like Blackburn just as like a high upside starter or bulk guy. I think the Rays could do a lot with him, but. Yeah, I mean, the trading with the A's is a bit more lucrative because they do have like more pieces that they're probably willing to part with, and a lot of those pieces kind of fit a need that the Rays have. And also the Blue Jays are probably going to be like reluctant to trade away like high-end talent to a division rival.
Yeah, they're going to ask for – I think the Jays are going to ask for way too much.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Moreno's great, but like he's not great yet. Like he's still, like you said, unproven. So yeah, Murphy for me still.
All right, cool. So we're on the same page.
All right. Next we've got, I'm just going to skip this one from at RBLR Sports, asking about Eflin on the Shelflin memes. I don't know about all that. We'll worry about
the odds are high. Yeah, the odds are high.
Next, we've got at Bent Connor. He asked, what does an MJ Melendez trade look like? We'll start with that one. He's got a couple questions. So what does an MJ Melendez trade look like?
In my opinion, it looks like a lot. It looks, I don't know that we have enough to feel comfortable trading away for that, in my opinion.
I mean, he would be less than a Pasquantino trade for sure, but I would rather have Pasquantino than Melendez. I mean, like Melendez could be good and he's pretty versatile, so I like that. But Pasquantino is better and he would fit more of a need. But I think Melendez, it would probably be something like Aranda plus some like medium high end prospect, maybe like Mason Montgomery because he's kind of like medium high end, and then maybe like Harold Ramirez as like a throw in.
Okay, so you don't think, excuse me, you don't think Taj Bradley's included in that trade at all?
No, I don't think you need to get rid of Bradley to get Melendez. I think you would need to get rid of Bradley plus like Carlos Colmenares or some like low level, like high ceiling prospect to get Pasquantino, but I don't think Taj Bradley would be needed to get Melendez.
Okay.
Melendez is, I mean, he's young, so he's like, he's got a lot of potential, but he's not as good as Pasquantino.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree with that.
I mean, so they could get him, but I don't really think he's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was. That's kind of what I was saying by like I don't know that we have enough to get him. I guess I should have been more specific and feel like good about it. I should say. If we had, I just don't feel very confident in because just like Moreno, I mean, he's a little more proven than him, but not by much. He's only played in the majors for 1 year.
Yeah, I don't love Melendez's defensive game either. And like, if you're going to trade for him and then just put him in the corner of the outfield, like that's kind of an overpay for that trade because you could stick pretty much anybody in like left or right field, and they would do an okay job. So, I mean, if he's going to play catcher, that's great, but he's not a great defensive catcher, so he's not really worth that, worth acquiring.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Next, Bent Connor at Bent Connor, but his name is Connor Bent, so there's a lot of flipping around here. It's too confusing. He said, do we have an actual chance of signing Nimmo?
I mean, I think everyone has a chance to sign him. I think that I think he would fill a very good role for us, and he'd be a great player for us. I do think that he might be a guy who breaks the Rays record in contract. So that's my only concern.
Yeah, he would definitely get like a ton of money, and he doesn't really fit the exact need of a left-handed power bat. Like I think he's a lefty, but he's not really much of a power hitter. I mean, I would take him because he's like a really good player, but I think there are cheaper players who fit a better need for the team. So, I mean, there's a chance, but I don't think he's a high priority for the front office. Like if he's asking for like $20 million a season, like he's not going to get that from the Rays, and I don't think he's worth it.
Yeah, I would put him between the like 17 to 20, in my opinion. I know I've said in my opinion a lot, but that's just because that's kind of how I think. So I'd put him between 17 and 20 a year, and I just don't think that the Rays pay that.
No, I don't think so. And you could trade for literally like Seth Brown or like I'm trying to think of another left. Or you could sign Joey Gallo basically for like cheaper, and it would be cheaper first of all, and it would fill the need the Rays have a little bit more. So yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's great, but I don't love him. And then last question here is, how many bats do you think we get? So I'm assuming like through trade or free agency this offseason.
After the Eflin deal, I say 2. That's my thought. 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, I think 2 is a good number. I'd probably stick with that as well. That makes sense to me. It's because like, they need like, 1 bat, but they're probably going to get 1 plus like some kind of fringe guy.
Exactly.
Who maybe they try to like work on a little bit, I guess. I don't know. All right. Next question from at Seb Newell. He asked, are there any under the radar pickups you might be interested in? Guys like Harold Ramirez or Jason Adam that has some good underlyings that the Rays like. So any like, no name or low like status guys.
I don't know that I would consider him a no name because at one point I'm pretty sure he was highly regarded. But we had a conversation again in this little Rays group chat that we have, and a guy like Joe Adell, who it seems like he's kind of blocked where he's at. I would love to have a guy like Joe Adell. I think he's got so much upside, and I think the Rays could bring that out of him.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a project, and they could bring that out of him. I don't know how valuable he would be like in 2023 here when the Rays kind of need like more of a proven bat. But I mean, he's definitely someone that like if the price is right and we could just get him for like a Rule 5 eligible guy for like next year, like if we can just swap him like 1-for-1, that might be cool because it seems like he's kind of like on the out in LA. Like it seems like
exactly.
he's not really in the plans. So yeah, I mean, if they could get him, that's cool. I still like Justin Lawrence out in Colorado. The slider is really cool. He's got some really good stuff. Throws hard. There are like 4 pitchers on the Rockies, like some bullpen arms that I really like. So any of them are fine. I think I'm trying to think of his name, Ashton Godot or something like that. I forgot another name. Pierce Johnson. I don't think he's on the Rockies, but he's somewhere cool. I think I like his curveball. I don't remember. I just was like looking at like weird names. So yeah, Justin Lawrence, Ashton, whatever. Jake Bird, I think, is in Colorado. Yeah, just someone. If one of those names, happens and I remember something about him, then that would be cool. But whoever they sign is going to be good.
I respect that. I respect that a lot.
I think it would probably be like a bullpen arm though, because I think the bats are going to be more like established, bigger names. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's probably the right call.
All right, I think this is our last question here from Twitter user HHHHHHH77657194.
Oh, that's my boy.
Yep, that's Julian. So Julian asked, when is Luke Raley for Ohtani happening?
Tomorrow.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be mad if Luke Raley is like the left-handed half of the first base platoon this coming season, but I still think they should probably get a first baseman. Maybe Ohtani could play first.
Yeah, I just don't think we ever see a guy like Ohtani come play for the Rays.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it would be like for 1 year, and then we would never see him again. So,
yeah, no, you're 100% right. I think that if there were ever a player to sign for the same price as your whole team, it would be Ohtani, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, that does it for our Twitter questions. So, thank you guys for sending those in. Anybody else who's listening, if you want to send us your questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, you can tweet at us individually or at RBLR Sports, where you can also follow us on Twitter, social media, all that stuff. We'll talk about anything you send us, obviously. So yeah, just send those things in and then tune in to the following episode and you'll hear something, and I might butcher your name. I might butcher your who knows? But yeah, thank you everybody for sending those.
Yeah, you guys killed it on the questions this week. But if you guys wanted to kill it and look a little bit better while killing it, you guys could go check out shop.rblrsports.com and get some of the coolest Rays-inspired gear, really any of the Tampa-inspired teams. We have some of the coolest shirts you could think of as far as just off-the-wall stuff. So if you guys go check that out, I'm going to send it to Ben. He'll give you guys a discount code.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not Black Friday anymore, so you got to use promo code Flappy again, 10% off your order. All of you are pretty ugly and you have bad style, so you got to buy some shirts to get that. We know our demographic. We know you're not the most handsome, but you know what? That's okay. If you buy a shirt, it can help.
Oh, good Lord. We love you, but we hate you at the same time is basically what he said. Good God.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so again, use that code Flappy, FLAPPY. That'll get you 10% off. And now we go into the Drew Rasmussen talk, huh?
Yeah. I really liked his season. He's good. Like, he's a good starting pitcher. The 2 Tommy Johns in his past are definitely a little concerning, so I wouldn't really want to extend him. But He had a 71st percentile FWAR among pitchers who threw at least 100 innings. His 2.84 ERA was the 86th percentile, 3.26 FIP, 77th percentile, well above average starting pitcher. Good command, throws quality strikes, mechanically sound. Like he does everything really well, and he's like almost everything you want in like a good, solid starting pitcher.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. He's one of my favorite pitchers on the team, probably one of my favorite players on the team. And for a guy who this season threw basically double his most innings ever thrown, I think the highest before this was 76, and he threw like 142. So not quite double the innings he's ever thrown, but pretty close. I think that he came out and performed amazing at one of the 3 sub-3 ERAs on the team.
Yeah, he was just phenomenal, and a big part of his success came from adding that cutter this season. I know it was originally like a cut slider, and then he has like a sweeping slider, but I'm just going to call it a cutter for the purposes of not mixing up a bunch of words later on. But yeah, the cutter's phenomenal. It really helps with the fastball slider tunnel that he's got going on. Hitters can't really pick it up, and it really just bridges the gap. It's a great pitch. It's because of the purpose it has, but it's like not like that great in terms of stuff, but he still has above average stuff. It's a 60 out of 80 grade on pitching bot. Same thing with his command, really strong command, above average too. Just he does so many things well, and it really comes down to his strike throwing ability, which I guess the Brewers didn't really value because they kind of put him at the back end of the pen. His walk rates were really high, but he's able to work effectively in the zone and consistently throw strikes. He had a 67th percentile Weezer, so he's above average at working in the zone, and he's really good at working off the zone. He had a 90th percentile chase rate, so throwing in that like just off the zone area was really great for him this year. And yeah, I mean, he just did it so consistently. Like, it's really impressive.
Yeah, I think that and it's kind of like another Jeffrey Springs situation almost. Like, we had 2 guys this year alone who were primarily bullpen guys up until this year. Like, all the way up until this year, Rasmussen only had 20 total starts, and he had 28 this year. So I think that his ability to do that is something that I am so impressed with, and the fact that we had 2 guys do that this year is just insane to me.
Yeah, he was really impressive. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say. I know he did overperform on a couple metrics, but I mean, it's hard to say how we did that, but part of it could be due to seam shifted wake, which is basically like late breaking pitches. It's really kind of hard to explain, but basically it's like the pitch is spinning in one direction on its way to the plate, and then it shifts like later on, and it helps the break either change directions or like it kind of amplifies that like break. So it happens late. Basically, like, scouts for a long time would just call it like, oh yeah, his pitches have good late movement, but now we can kind of quantify those things, and it's still like heavily theorized and like speculated or whatever. But he seems to be like a seam shifted wake like merchant basically. He had a 72nd percentile home run rate, but his expected home run rate should have been a lot higher. So he's somehow able to overperform. Same thing with ground balls. He had a 75th percentile ground ball rate, but just a 42nd percentile expected ground ball rate. So there's something happening with his pitches where it's really hard to square up, and he still allows like pretty hard contact, but it's like not good. It's not like on the good part of the bat. Like, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's like, a well hit ball. So yeah, he's got a little bit of magic basically.
Yeah, he's making batters' hands sting from the bat is essentially what's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's all that I have on Raz. I know we kind of had to go short because, again, we do have USA playing today in 5 minutes, so I'm definitely going to watch that. I watch soccer every 4 years, so can't miss it.
Yeah. I mean, before we wrap this up, I just do want to get your thoughts. Like, what is something Rasmussen could do next season to, take that next step or improve in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I do think we need to work out kind of not so much hard contact. I can't tell you exactly how we're going to get there, but if he can drop the amount of hard contact that he gives up, I think that that's going to make him one of the better pitchers in the American League. Not that he already is,
Yeah,
but
no, I agree. I think the hard contact, while it's like not, terrible, I think he could improve on that, and that might help him out a bit, especially if the defense is a little bit shakier like it was last year. So we'll see. I'm kind of hoping that he becomes more of a true, like, 3 times through the order starting pitcher,
yeah,
because in 2022, he had a 90th percentile weighted on base average the first 2 times through the order, and then the third time. So, like, this is comparing like his third time through the order with other pitchers' third times. He had a 37th percentile. So first 2 times, top 10% in the league. Third time through the order, bottom 37% in the league. So he was well below average. And I think mixing in his sinker / two-seamer a little bit more could help him. He started to do it at the end of last season. And his, like, the last 2 months, he was like a 70th percentile weighted on base average third time through the order. So, like, the sinker helps. And I think if he mixes that in a little bit more and, continues to stay healthy, I think he'll be like a solid, like, 2.5, maybe 3 WAR pitcher, which would, put him among like the top 15, top 20 pitchers, starting pitchers in the league. So health is like maybe a bit of a concern, but he's kind of shown that he's able to move past his Tommy John history. So
yeah,
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an integral part of our season, and I think that I could realistically see that 2.84 ERA drop down. I think he could be a 2.3 to a 2.4 guy this year.
Yeah, anything under like 2.5 is going to be really impressive because he was already so good this year.
Exactly.
With his overperformance, but I think he can maintain that overperformance in 2023 and, make it kind of like a thing where it's not just like a fluke and people are wondering how he did it. I really think that a sinker and, just continuing to throw strikes and stay healthy is going to be huge for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the key. Just stay healthy.
All right, cool. So, I mean, that does it for me for Drew Rasmussen. I know next week we'll probably do like Randy? Did we do him yet?
We haven't done him yet. No, we did Wander and Yandy so far.
Right. Okay, cool. So definitely Randy next week if we're going like pitcher, hitter. That makes sense.
Well, next week might be a little bit different. We can't give anything away yet, but it might.
That's true.
Might be. I'm still waiting on confirmation, but it might be a little bit different of a show.
Yeah, and it feels like it would be like a little unethical to have them comment on, like, a player's performance. Yeah, so
it might start some clubhouse drama already.
Yeah, that's true. We don't want that, but yeah, I mean, any other things that happened this week other than spring training sites getting moved? Not going to be in Port Charlotte. Hurricane Ian messed that up. Rule 5 draft coming up. Yeah, I think like this week, actually.
Yeah, the winter meetings start on the 5th, which is Monday. And then I believe Wednesday is, I think the 7th is Rule 5 draft.
Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, there's also that St. Pete Stadium stuff, but
yeah,
that's all just, it's such a mess.
It's all so up in the air. It's insane. I've never seen such a hard time figuring out where a team is going to build a stadium.
Okay, so Eric Neander, not Eric Neander, Stu Sternberg, if you're listening, if you put it in Tampa, I will buy season tickets. Like, if it's in St. Pete, I will not buy season tickets just because it's such a commute. So you know what to do.
If you put it in Tennessee, I will definitely buy season tickets. But if you don't, I can't, but I'll still try and come to a game, whether it's in St. Pete or Tampa.
Let's split the difference. We'll put it in Georgia. We'll both buy season tickets.
Deal. We'd be the best team in Georgia already.
Okay, that's our 2 Braves fans listeners aren't going to like that, but
they'll be all right.
Okay. They'll be all right.
This is a Rays show.
mean, they're ugly anyways, you know.
We did establish that they're the ugliest ones too.
Unless they buy a shirt or something from shop.rblrsports.com using promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY.
Perfect. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all listening. I know we had a whole bunch of user questions, which was awesome. I love that. Aside from that, if you guys could just do us one more favor, go to wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, all your major streaming platforms. Just give us a follow on there. And then go over to your social media. You're already on your phone. Give us a follow there at RBLR Sports. Super quick, super easy. That's where we get all of our questions. That's where we interact with you guys. So if you guys could do that for us, we would greatly appreciate it. Final thing I'll say is go USA. We got to do this today.
Yeah, Pulisic is never going to have kids again, possibly, but that's okay. We don't need the bloodline to continue. Just win today and let's get it done.
Exactly. All right, go Rays.
Go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.